Welcome to another episode of Avid Automotive. Today we are in the Derbion basement car park with a French modern car. Ash, what we got?
We have got a Renault Clio right behind us, customised, beautiful purple, and let's speak to Ashley who owns this beautiful beast.
Ashley, this is your first car, yeah?
Yeah.
So you've never owned another car?
No.
This is your first car, and you decide to bag it, put split rims on it, Recaro Siestas.
Yeah.
Look at that. Tell us about it.
Started off going to car meets at my local down at the Derby Velodrome. Put coilovers on it. They lasted all of 6 months and £900 later. I was just lusting for the air suspension and just the pure look of it. You can go down the road, lift it up, and then drop it, and it makes it look beautiful.
Which mod did you think would be the most simplest or easiest to probably implement, but actually proved to be the most challenging?
Probably the camber on the rear wheels.
Have a look at that.
Fitting 10J wheels on the standard arches, which came with a 6.5J wheel, proved difficult. Back and forth, scratching my head. We finally got there. It actually is slightly different camber on both sides, and that is purely fact down to the Renault axle being slightly off-centred. So that caused an nightmare. After doing lots of research, that's how I found out that to alternate the camber on both sides. In total, they were bought originally in purple for £2,200. New lips from France, they cost £400-500, and then the refurb, it takes it over £3,000.
So these are custom
Wow.
custom made split rims for this car.
Yeah.
Are you running any spacers, or is that just?
Yeah, so the rear's a 10J ET20, and that's with a 20mm spacer on the front.
Yeah.
And then the front's a 9J ET30 with no spacer, but I am looking to put a spacer on the front to get the arch lit fitment like the rear.
Talk to us about you mentioned the air systems. Just talk to us about that, because I know they're not easy to install. I believe yours was one of the first that they did.
Yeah, so I went to Plush Automotive in Leicester. It was the first kit they did. It's fully custom. It's actually got Lupo rear bags on it, and it's also got Mark 7 Fiesta front bags on it. The initial kit was £5,200.
That's just for so the initial kit comes with your management system,
Yeah.
your tanks, and everything, to go with
Them tanks were extra. So it was a gold carbon single tank, with just the flush carpets resunk one. That was the 5,200. Then my first boot build, which incorporated into a stand like it is now, still with the first tank, that was £1,600. And then I wanted rear seats out, full boot from boot to seats. The tanks were actually on top, but then the second boot build cost another £2,000.
Wow.
So I've nearly spent £10,000 with the motor.
Just on the air,
Just on the suspension and the boot build, yeah, nearly £10,000.
I mean, the air suspension, it's a big thing now, isn't it? Everyone's doing it.
Yeah, it's
the
becoming
stance
more and more common.
kind of scene is growing and growing and growing. Stance Nation, fitted. I take it you show this car then?
Yeah, hoping to get as many shows as I can this year, obviously COVID depending. The last show was in 2019, then COVID hit in March the following year. So my first show for this is May, which is the tucked invite only one.
Yeah.
Very quickly, just do us a favour, just list off as best you can the modifications you've done to this car since you first
Starting from the rear, then we've got the custom deck tape lights. They were from Germany originally, so it's full LED. As we found out earlier,
Yeah.
they're not working as best as they should
The
be.
right hand side have failed today.
Obviously the whole colour of the car is Audi Merlin purple, which
Nice.
for me I wanted to do it because the RS6 is my favourite car, all round practical, beautiful car. So I wanted to go Nardo Grey originally, simple, quick, get it back on the road, ready
Everyone's
for the
doing
shows.
it, aren't they, Nardo Grey now?
That was my problem. It was becoming more and more common, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this properly, go with the Merlin purple. So it took 2 years, but me personally, I think it was worth it.
Full
Yeah, it's beautiful.
respray.
Full respray, yeah. The only thing that's not been done is the engine bay because that never gets shown.
Fair enough.
Spoke about the wheels,
Wheels,
yeah.
we've
So
done them, yeah.
Roadform TMB 3-piece splits,
Yeah.
10J rear, 9J front.
Nice.
We've got the full low line kit on the front and sides. Again, these are the Clio RS model because they don't make them, and I've actually married them up with the Clio GT side skirts, which are probably one of the rarest bits on the car.
Wow.
The GT side skirts and the front bumper, unless you have the GT car, you can't find
That's it.
So luckily, I think, yeah, the splitter originally was from France.
Love the splitter. Love the splitter.
I got to a point with it where I'd done everything I wanted to, and then I was like, right, what's next? And because I'd taken it apart so much and took it back to square one,
Yeah.
I had to put in double the money for it. So I've put in near enough 30k including buying the car.
Wow.
And yes, people say, why? It's a Clio, but to me, it's my money, it's my pride and joy. It's kept me quiet for the past 4 years.
It's a hobby.
And it's probably the only one in the world like this.
Seats, are they Recaro CSs?
No.
What are they?
Recaro Sportsters out of a Corsa VXR.
Right.
So they
Similar
were-
design though, aren't they, to the CS?
Yeah, they're a bit. They're not as strong in the back, and it's a different headrest.
Okay.
So with the CSs, you can actually use obviously harnesses and stuff with it.
Yeah.
With these, they don't recommend it because of the folding, and there's not as much strength in between for the harnesses, obviously, to don't crash.
In fact, these reupholstered.
Yeah, so I bought them originally for £400-500 with obviously the VXR logo on and things like that. Being a Clio, I didn't want to be riding around with the Corsa VXR logo on. So I sent them off to Cambridge, and I think about £1,000 later, this is what came back with me.
Wow. Really good. Interior's really smart.
Tell us about your entertainment media system and the speakers you've got in here.
So it's standard head unit, because aftermarket head units, they're still struggling to get them working with the TomTom sat-nav screen.
Really?
Yeah, so I've just basically went into the original wiring with the new speakers. So I've got SPL door cards with 4 6.5 competition component vibe range, which is top of the range for them. So I'm hoping to marry them up with a subwoofer in the future.
Dipping out the car again. So it's a question I suppose we get asked a lot about split rims. How do you go about measuring for split rims, ordering? Because it's a completely different process to buying normal alloy wheels, isn't it? And it's a question I get asked a lot. What do you do when you buy a set of split rims? Did you have to send off the measurements, or do you have to go and see someone? How does it work?
So for me, I've worked out the offset of what I originally had with my cast wheels, and then went from there. And you can work out, speaking with the guy that actually refurbed it, he helped me a lot with it, working out what size you need your dish, your barrel, and actually your face, which gives you the offset.
Yeah.
So once we work that out, in all fairness, the barrels are slightly different on the front and back, the different offsets. So this is why I've got the 20mm spacer on the front. I'd have preferred to have no spacers and run true, but because without machining the barrels down, we want to achieve that. Well, I suppose it's the cheaper option, having spacers.
Yeah.
You can mess around, you can machine your spacers down, which is a lot cheaper. But for the rears as well, we had to have them sent off to be machined as well. Because they come blank.
Okay.
So then you can have them machined to your specific bolt pattern.
What is next on your list of either minor mods or major mods? What's the next thing you want to do?
Modification wise, just little bits of carbon fibre here and there, probably a lot of the interior, just tidying things up more than anything, because I'm not happy with the OEM stuff. It's cheap, it's plastic, a lot of stuff is broken on the car, and as you see, the lights have gone this morning. So it's just getting it all working, getting it tip-top OEM plus style, and then go back to the modifications.
That's part of modding a car, isn't it? You know, every month you'll do something, and then there'll be something that puts you back, or something that breaks, or and that's just part of modifying cars.
Anyone that mods a car knows you'll fix one thing or you mod one thing and you'll break 2 more.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with this car. You can see that I've got like little carbon door handles, I've got carbon outside with my wing mirrors. I'm looking at probably changing up the steering wheel a bit, so getting the top and the bottom, flat bottom section carbon, probably the gloss black trims. I'm unsure whether I keep them gloss black or carbon yet, but it's all something that can be sent off. While because the car's not a daily now, I can afford to take the steering wheel off and it go away for a month or 2, whereas before I'd have to get a replacement steering wheel, which was never feasible.
Have you got a daily car?
Yeah, I've got an Audi A4 Avant.
Nice.
So you've chucked, because this is always the question we get asked as modifying cars, and let us know in the comments what your opinion is. Yes, you modify a car and you chuck all that money in. and you never really get it back unless it's an appreciating car. You chuck 30 grand in to get it to this beautiful spec. What, you know, if you was to sell it, would you sell it? What would you have next? What would be your next move?
When it comes to the point of selling, it'll be, I think for me, a case of breaking it for parts, because it's such a desired taste. So really, you've got your Clio owners, you're not really going to get a VAG owner that interested in having a Clio, and especially with it all being done already. There's not many people in the car scene that want to buy a done car, because the whole point of being into the car culture is doing it all yourself and enjoying it with your friends. So for me, it'd be taking the parts off and then being able to sell them to someone else that wants to do that, like I've done with this.